No, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to put a positive, funny spin on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to play real well. Let's put a funny spin on Killers of the Flower Moon. People are going to love that.
Yeah, what I want to do here is I just want to think how would the Impractical Jokers handle recapping Killers of the Flower Moon? That's the comedic sensibility that I want to bring to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really nice idea. Do you think we can stick the landing?
I don't know. I've never seen an episode of that show.
No, me either. Happy Tuesday, De Niro Nation, and welcome to Our Hero De Niro, the only podcast watching and recapping every Robert De Niro film in random order. I'm Mike, joined as ever by my co-host, Mike.
No relation.
And today we are very excited to be discussing the 2023 Martin Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon. Mike, you ever seen this movie?
Boy, have I ever. I watched it maybe a year after it came out. I was not particularly interested in watching the 3.5 hour long historical epic, but I did. I broke it up into 4 parts and watched it like a mini series, and that worked pretty well. I liked the film. I gave it 4 stars in my original Letterboxd rating. That has changed upon watching it this second time.
Ooh, interesting.
Oh yeah, little teaser. Got to listen to the end, or I guess you could just skip. But what about you, Mike?
Oh, yeah, I've definitely seen this film. I did not split it into 4 viewings when I first watched it. When I first watched this film, I think I watched it relatively soon after it came out on VOD, the year that it came out. And Caroline and I sat down and we watched the first half of the film. Our intent was to watch it in 2 sittings. But we found the first half so boring that it took us over a month to go back for the second half. I also gave this film 4 stars, and I'm not going to say whether my rating changed. Honestly, at the outset of the discussion,
very mysterious.
But I will say that my experience was relatively similar this time. I really do think it's just fascinating how different the pacing is between the 2 halves of the film. Because what I didn't say was, but then when Caroline and I went back and watched the second half of the film, I was like, oh, well, this was much more enjoyable. I kind of wish we just sat and watched the whole thing 3.5 hours at once, because I feel like I would have enjoyed the acceleration in pace in the second half when the FBI characters are introduced and some of the pieces start to come to place / some of the dominoes start to fall. But oh my God, the first half, it's just it's so brooding and methodical in a way that just I don't know. I don't find it particularly engaging. Honestly,
really getting ahead of yourself, aren't you? You haven't said anything about the film yet.
Sure. I mean, let's talk about the film. So here's some stuff about this movie. As I said, it is a Martin Scorsese film. It is generally quite historically accurate. It's an adaptation of a novel by the same name, which had a broader focus, not just on the case itself, but on the kind of creation of the FBI. And the role this case played in its kind of growth to prominence in American law enforcement. And I read online earlier when I was doing some research for this that the original version of the script was actually more true to the book itself in terms of what it focused on and the way it was structured. But Scorsese and his screenwriting collaborators, Eric Roth, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they struggled to write that kind of more procedural, kind of law enforcement focused script and decided to shift it to something that was a little bit more in their wheelhouse, which is this slightly more brooding character study that I think at its core is about moral degradation and moral hazard, right? Which is a very different kind of story than what it could have been, what it sounds like it was. And so the focus on this movie really is much more on the Osage. So I teed this up a little bit in the end of the previous episode. But what this film is about is this essentially, I mean, I guess to a certain extent you might call it a genocide, right? But at the very least, it was a systematic campaign of murder and disenfranchisement of these indigenous folks from the kind of out west in the continental United States and the state of Oklahoma, who discovered on their reservation land about 100 years ago a tremendous amount of oil. And as a result of this discovery, became incredibly rich. The film's narration refers to them as the richest people per capita in America. But, due to systemic racism and disenfranchisement of Native folks and et cetera, not only was there a whole bunch of systems that the white folks set up around the way that, the way that these folks engaged with their wealth in a publicly known way, with a whole kind of like almost a conservatorship system, I guess, to a certain extent. Like they were called like court appointed guardianship, essentially, like with control over their finances. But as we will discuss, they also engaged in a campaign of systematic murder to actually steal the what are called head rights and money from these folks that they reaped from the oil discovered on their land. So it's a pretty fucking wild story. It's crazy that it's true, and I think it is a very interesting and informative historical event. It's just a shame the film is pretty boring. So we'll dig into that a little bit more. So anyway, as I said, Scorsese and Roth, they shift the focus in their script in the film to be more on the Osage. It's more about them rather than being about the law enforcement folks who solved the case, the broader community kind of around the Osage, the villainy of it's William King Hale, right?
Yes.
King Hale, Robert De Niro's character, and kind of the web of lies and villainy that he spun up around himself. And then Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Ernest, his moral degradation and just kind of the state of his soul throughout his journey through this story. Scorsese made the decision to structure the story in this way after a lot of consultation with a lot of Osage folks. There was a lot of input from indigenous communities in the creation of the film, and that was really important to Scorsese. He really didn't want to make a film about indigenous folks that wasn't centering their perspectives, which I think is great. I don't love this movie, but this movie makes me really love Martin Scorsese. I think he is just such an incredible guy, somebody who I think has really used his voice, especially over the past several decades, to tell stories that are worth telling and kind of represent the things that he thinks are important for people to understand in a way that is very artful and very technically competent. And I can't believe we got 4 Martin Scorsese films in like 6 weeks
Rapid
or 7 weeks
fire.
or whatever. Anything you want to add before I share a little bit more information and we get into the plot summary?
No, I'm excited to get into it.
Okay, so a couple more things about this. So this is Martin Scorsese's most recent picture. And you think about the kind of 2 male leads of this film, right? Early in his career, De Niro was kind of, I guess, Scorsese's muse to a certain extent, right? And later in his career, Leonardo DiCaprio has been Martin Scorsese's muse, his most frequent collaborators. This is the first feature film that he's ever done that has both of them in it. So that's kind of cool. It's him working with like his 2 like main actor collaborators over the course of his career. And Leonardo DiCaprio in the original script had actually been attached to depict Jesse Plemons' character, FBI agent by the name of Tom White. But when the decision was made to highlight the Osage and de-emphasize the role of the FBI, DiCaprio suggested that he depict Ernest Burkhart, who's kind of this story really doesn't have any male heroes, but I guess he's like the closest thing to a male protagonist that this story has. And what DiCaprio really wanted to depict in this was, as I alluded to earlier, Ernest's moral degradation, but also the love between him and Molly Burkhart in its very twisted way, which is really interesting. This is also, for all intents and purposes, the kind of breakout role for Lily Gladstone, who plays Molly Burkhart, who is just a tremendously like magnetic, charismatic, and talented actress. And so it's nice to see her. Even when the film is boring, she is a tremendously compelling performer on screen. And so I really enjoy seeing her in the film. So that's really nice.
Listen, man, I have issues with this film, but the performances are not one of them.
They are certainly not. Yeah, there's really not a bad line in this entire film. These are powerhouse performances by everybody involved. Something interesting that I read earlier today when I was reading about this, I wonder if you read this, that I was not aware of, that, I don't know, it contextualizes the film for me in an interesting way, but it doesn't make me like it more. Did you know that he says he was inspired by Ari Aster in the making of this film?
No. That's pretty funny, though, considering how I feel about Ari Aster's films.
Yeah, so Scorsese says that he was inspired primarily by Hereditary, but to a certain extent by Midsommar as well, in crafting what is, I think, it was interesting thinking about it with that lens after reading that, because it makes it a little bit more interesting, right? Like if you think about this film as an elevated horror film that's about mood setting and about like psychological horror rather than like what you expect a Scorsese film to be, which is kind of like a drama with serious, important things to say, but that has like fun moments and fun cinematography and stuff, I think it works pretty well. There are some shots in this film that are incredibly disturbing that I think would belong in like an elevated horror film. And so I found that lens like fascinating. Like it was really fun reevaluating the film today, thinking about it as like Scorsese's take on elevated horror. Like it makes me like it more, I think.
You have Hereditary, which is a boring elevated horror film that's 2 hours long. You have Midsummer, which is a boring elevated horror film that's 2.5 hours long. And Scorsese said, what if I did this, but 3.5 hours long? And by God, he did.
He's a visionary. So that's fascinating. The film appears to have been a box office bomb. I didn't write the numbers down, but I think it made like $165 million on a $200 or $210 million budget or something like that. But the box office obviously cannot represent the full kind of range of this. This was Apple's first big picture, right? That they produced and distributed.
Yes.
And it's been free on Apple TV Plus since it was released. And so Apple insists that the film was profitable. They're probably not lying, although I expect some of their accounting is a little bit dubious. But I expect that their kind of assertion is based on analyses they've done about subscriber revenue and retention that it's driven over the years since they've put it on the platform. But it certainly was not profitable in movie theaters. And this film has received general universal critical acclaim. It did receive some more tepid reactions from some indigenous commentators because they felt that it was still a little bit heavy on the emphasis of the white characters, which, I don't know. I can't really comment on that, I guess. I don't have that perspective. For me, I feel like the emphasis is relatively even between the white and indigenous characters. But, depending upon your cultural vantage point, you may feel differently about that. But some indigenous commentators have felt that it still did not properly emphasize the indigenous perspectives.
You know what? I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but I am inclined to agree with them. And I'm sure I will get more into that later.
Sure. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. So the film opens with a montage of some traditional Osage stuff, and they're describing the titular flower moon phenomenon. It's something to do with the blooming of like fields of flowers, and the way that it looks. I'm sure it has some symbolic significance that I do not understand. We see some Osage folks find the oil on their land. I noted it's a great Scorsese montage. Love that shit. It's a really, really fun opening to the film, and I think it does a really nice job of setting the tone. The tribe becomes very wealthy, but the law dictates that the rich Osage folks maintain court-appointed legal guardians. As I said, they're white, and it's meant as a system to help them manage their money because they are considered quote-unquote incompetent. We meet Ernest, and I noted here that I just cannot believe how awful this period of time seems. Like, whenever I see films that take place in this period of time, I'm just like, it's like,
the Roaring
fuck,
20s.
It's like post-industrial, but like everything is still awful. So it's like everything's terrible. Like, you're still going to die when you're like 50 fucking years old. But like, there's like a lot of like stuff happening that makes things really dirty and smelly that wasn't happening like 100 years prior. Like it's like it all seems really bad. Right. Very dirty and messy and gross.
You go to work at the smoke factory, 9 hours a day just inhaling smoke. Go home and shit in a hole in the ground.
And we get our first De Niro sighting. You want to say when it was, my good co-host?
Oh boy, would I ever. We get our De Niro face reveal at 7 minutes, 29 seconds.
It's fascinating. I wrote 8:10. How are we so far off?
It's a really good question. That's one for the ages.
Yeah. Yep, there you go. And so De Niro plays this character by the name of William King Hale. They call him King generally in the film. I'm going to call him Hale when I talk about him.
Okay.
This is a pretty incredible Robert De Niro performance. Yeah, what do you want to say about it?
I'm going to try to remember that you're referring to him as Hale because I wrote King in my notes for him. So I'm just got to remember King equals Hale equals De Niro.
Yep, King and Hale. Yep.
Listen, the performances in this film, obviously excellent. I think I really enjoy this enjoy is not the right word. I enjoy De Niro's performance of King's character because it allows us to see two sides that De Niro is really excellent at performing. Because King is a character who is outwardly very warm, very affectionate.
He's a glad-hander,
yeah,
right?
He's a friend of the Osage. And so you get that warm side of him that we've seen in films like Marvin's Room, things like that. But then
Melvin's Room,
yeah. But deep down, McDonoughn's Room. But deep down, he's a very shrewd, greedy, really the antagonist of the film, and the driving force of a lot of what happens. And so it is just a very compelling performance, being able to see both sides of that in one film.
Yeah, this has to be like one of the most evil people whom De Niro has ever depicted, right? Like, he's just as violent and greedy as like some of the like more outwardly violent gangbangers whom he's depicted, but like he was so shrewd, as you said, about the way that he deployed his violence and his evil and just hurt and killed so many people for such a long time. It's a nice performance. And I didn't mention, please go ahead.
Maybe, as we get further into the podcast, we can do a bonus episode where we rank evil tiers for De Niro's characters.
Oh, that's a really fun idea.
Al Capone and King probably towards the top. Yeah, Dr. Richard Godsend from Godsend also pretty high up there.
Yep.
Jack Byrne from
Richard Godsend. No, Jack Byrne. He's in the good camp. He's way in like the best area. Don't you think?
Jack
Burns is probably he's probably in a similar zone to like the doctor from Melvin's Room, Dr. Wally.
Dr. Wally. Oh, great guy. Definitely very low on the evil totem pole.
This is a fun segment. I'm excited. I think we should do this. Let's put a little pin in that. Let's come back in a few weeks. It could be a fun all mic'd up episode. Honestly.
I agree.
And I mentioned Ernest, right? He's the character who's introduced prior to Hale. He is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And just as a reminder, these are all real people. And this is a relatively historically accurate depiction of their lives. So Ernest has just returned from serving in World War I overseas, and he's going to live with Hale along with his brother Byron on Hale's ranch on the reservation. And I had some thoughts here about this scene. One, to your earlier comment about De Niro's performance, I remember on my first viewing being really struck by how kind and folksy Hale seems. And I didn't know coming into this film at all what it was going to be about the first time I saw it. And I was like, when you find out that he's evil, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like when you first meet him, you're like, oh, this guy seems really nice.
That is really good.
It's pretty compelling.
He wears the mask so well. That's what makes him so insidious. Yeah.
Right, so dangerous. Yeah. Yep. And I also noted again and remember being struck in a very positive way by, I think, like Ernest's lack of discernment, right? He's like not discerning about women. He's not discerning about like the kinds of things he wants to do. He has like an emotionality and a hedonism that I think are like very charming qualities. And so I remember being really taken by Ernest early in the film.
Really?
When we first met him. Yep.
Huh.
But, those things they're bad ways for somebody as stupid and weak as Ernest to be. He's way too stupid and way too weak-willed to be an undiscerning hedonist. Like I think it's kind of a study of like the danger of that kind of person, right? Like somebody who has no discernment, no qualms really about what they'll do or what kinds of experiences they'll want to have, but is also just like, I don't know. I think that Ernest might be the dumbest character we've seen depicted on film so far in the podcast. What do you think? He's toweringly fucking stupid.
I completely agree. And I think it is one of the major flaws of this film to center the story so much around the character of Ernest. He's just not a complex protagonist. He's passive. He is weak-willed. He's very emotionally stunted, and he rarely shows insight or remorse. And he is, in many ways, the focal point of the film, where we're seeing events unfold through his eyes. And I take a lot of issue with that in ways that I'll get into later on when we're finishing up our discussion.
Yeah, those are good thoughts. I'm inclined to agree. I think I understand the story they were trying to tell, right? But I think that for me, so much of what I struggle with in the first half of this film is that Ernest is just like, he's so dumb that he's completely unrelatable to me. Like, it's like I could never imagine myself or anyone I respect doing the things that he does, because I don't think he's a bad person. You know, like that's what's like so fascinating about it, is like you never really get the sense in anything that Ernest says or does that he's like a mean or violent or even covetous person. He's just hedonistic, and it's total fucking dipshit who like loves and trusts the least loving, trustworthy person on earth, his uncle, King Billy Hale. You know, like, but he's just being taken in by everyone around him for the entire first half of the film.
I agree with everything you said. I think it's interesting, too, that one of the through lines, running through lines of this film is the ways in which characters compartmentalize their feelings in order to really participate in capitalism, essentially. Because Ernest, you're right. I don't think he's an inherently bad guy. He's very weak-willed and easily manipulated by King. But it's commented, a few characters, white characters, make this comment in the film where they basically say that they feel that they are owed some of the Osage wealth, that, the Osage didn't do anything to deserve it. And then later on, when Ernest is with Molly and has access to her wealth, he hears the same thing. He's like haggling with some guy saying, you're charging me Osage prices. And the guy's like, well, I'm doing real fucking work. Like, what are you doing? You're like sucking the teat of your Osage wife. I just think that's so, it's interesting, that critique, I think, of capitalism that Marty peppers in there.
It is interesting. I agree. Yeah, it'll be fun to talk about that. Let's see. So Hale, as you alluded to, right? He markets himself as, in the world, as a wealthy and extremely friendly benefactor of the Osage.
Don't trust anyone who self-describes as friendly.
Right. Like, it's like, oh, I'm really friendly. Like, okay, sure, asshole. He gives Ernest a book on the Osage. I'm just going to read what I wrote here. Gives Ernest a book on the Osage, and Ernest seems, as he reviews it, as he does at all times, like a really fucking stupid asshole. Like, we get our first clue about Ernest here when he's like reading the book. Like, he's just like, this is not a smart man. Like, this is not a man who was made for complex times that he's about to live through. This
is not a man who was made to be a 3.5 hour long film's protagonist.
And there's a moment here in this in the scene that I really like. De Niro is explaining, differences in the ways that white people and indigenous folks communicate. And he talks about the way the Osage talk, blackbird talk, he calls it. And he pantomimes birds chirping while he says it. It's like, it's a very funny, like, De Niro, like, visual performance. Like, he's really charming in this role. He turns it on. It's pretty incredible.
Agreed.
So we learn that Osage folks have been dying mysteriously, and we meet Molly Burkhart. Molly, played by Lily Gladstone. She fucking carries this movie. Now, Molly is a compelling protagonist. Unfortunately, as we'll discuss, she's going to be in bed for about 2/3 of the film.
Yeah.
And so she really, much like Ernest, is primarily someone whom things happen to.
Yes.
And so when we see her, when she speaks, when she acts in the world, she is very powerful and very compelling, but we mostly perceive her being victimized in the film. And so it's tough for her to carry the film emotionally either, just because of how small she is for much of the narrative. What do you think about that? You agree with that?
I completely agree. Not only with what you said about her role or position in the narrative, but also for the fact that, she's sidelined for like 1/3 of the film.
Yep.
And so, right. So it is tough. It is. You think about, well, who would make a compelling protagonist for this film? You have Ernest, who's a passive moron who is manipulated by his uncle. You have Molly, who endures endless suffering, but is sidelined for much of the film, a significant portion. And then you have King, who I think would probably function better as a story's protagonist, except for the fact that he's fucking evil. So you probably wouldn't want to watch that film, about his schemes or whatever. So it's just, we'll get more into it later, but yeah, it's something that I really had difficulty with when I was watching the film both times.
Yep. So we find out about Molly's family. She's got a mom and 3 sisters. Her mom's name is Lizzie Q. Her sisters' names are Minnie, Anna, and Rita. And when we first meet her, she's in a meeting with some fat white asshole about what of her money she's allowed to spend, and we find that he's one of these court-appointed guardians whom we've talked about, and that the Osage folks get what are called allotments of their money, and this system, is an arrangement the white people have set up to impose limitations and take advantage of the Osage. So Ernest gets a job. He's driving a cab, and he meets Molly and offers her a ride. She does not allow him to help her into her car. And over the subsequent scenes, we see them spending more and more time together and getting closer. And this section culminates in him giving her a ride to church. And this time she does let him help her into the car. And so we're kind of seeing here and like a little bit of visual storytelling. They're getting closer and like she's getting a little bit taken in by him. Hale meets with Ernest and tells him that he expects him to court and marry Molly as she has, quote, a full blood estate. And he says that gets the money flowing in the right direction. So you alluded to this earlier, right? This expressed and implied sense of entitlement that the white people have, that the Osage didn't earn any of their money. So some of it should flow to the white people. And so we're that's like subtext is made text here, right? In this scene. We get another scene of Ernest driving Molly around, and she tells him he talks too much, which he definitely does. And I wrote, she obviously likes him, though, and while she seems really smart, liking Ernest is really dumb. It's like the dumbest thing about her. Like, what is it that she sees in this guy? Like, she seems like a really smart, savvy person. So let's talk about this for a second. It's so hard, right? Because we're going to do like a little bit of literary analysis, but we're really talking about a real person in history. But like, what do you think we're to understand she sees in him? Does she perceive as fundamental decency and not understand that makes him quarry to be manipulated by evil people? Or like, it's so odd that she likes him. She seems like such a smart, discerning person.
It has to be that then, right? Because I agree.
Yeah.
And maybe it's an opposites attract thing because he's just kind of a simple, goofy idiot. Maybe she just finds that charming in its own way.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Yep. We see Ernest reading his Osage book, and then he and a couple of his shit kicker friends go out to rob the Osage. Then we see him play poker and lose all of his money. I write total dipshit. And then we get a scene of Molly bring Ernest to her family home to have dinner with her family. He meets Molly's mom. She doesn't trust him immediately. Like you could tell she's like
wise woman.
Sense of the kind of guy this is. They have dinner together. Ernest offers Molly sweets, and she reveals that she has diabetes. So she's trying to avoid sugar. And this was a thing, right? Like this is like a thing about like, human biology that I don't know about, right? I think we're supposed to understand that indigenous folks, they can't eat sugar healthily in the amounts that white people can, right? And so like the kinds of sugary and fatty foods that we introduced into their cultures were not good for them, and they developed diabetes at higher rates. Is that what happened?
Yes. Yeah, they mentioned that at one point. How she can't have a white person's diet.
Yep. They're eating dinner together. Molly asks him some questions. Why did he move to Oklahoma? To work for his uncle? Is he afraid of his uncle? No, he knows he's dangerous if you cross him, but Ernest isn't gonna cross him.
Right.
What
nicest
is his religion?
Guy
ever. Yeah, nicest guy ever. He says he's Catholic, but she observes that she hasn't seen him at church. And he asks her why a woman like her doesn't have a husband. And she rebuffs him and says that he seems like maybe he's overly interested in money, which fair. A storm starts, and Molly says that since the storm is so powerful, they need to be quiet for a while, but Ernest still tries to talk because he's a simple-minded fucking moron. I just can't believe like how much more I like Molly than Ernest. Like I really am like, it's like when you have those conversations with people, and you like, or you know a couple and you're like, what does she see in him? Or like, what does he see in her?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's like the way I feel when I look at these people. I'm like, what's going on here?
That's what makes it believable, is how many instances we've seen of that in real life, in our modern 2020s lives. Molly's great. She's strong-willed and smart and wry. And yeah, I mean, how could you not love her?
Right. Disciplined. Like,
right.
Yeah. Yep. Seems like an awesome lady. Right. Right. Of course, he likes her. Who wouldn't?
Right.
But like, what's she see in him? She's somebody who I think anybody would like if they got to know her. Right. So Ernest starts going to church to impress Molly. And we get a scene of Ernest and Molly making out in the car, and he proposes to her. She accepts. In my notes, parentheses, bad choice. Hale asks Ernest if he can, quote, stand her kind, and Ernest insists he actually loves her. They are married, and Hale speaks at the wedding. And so I just want to make an observation here, right? Because this was something that I didn't realize while I was watching the film, but I got it while I was reading through my extended notes as I made these more like truncated, organized notes earlier today. You know, I don't think until pretty far into the film, Hale believes that Ernest really loves Molly, but he really does. And it's fascinating that like Ernest is so stupid. And you talked about like the compartmentalization earlier. Like he really, I think, does love her and is somehow able to like set that aside and just like wreak this like violence and havoc on her and her family in a way that like, right, to Hale, to like a smart person with a normal brain that fucking works, like seems totally unbelievable. But Ernest is just like, he has like terminal stupid brain and he's able to like actually love this woman while he's like destroying her life and family. It's fascinating.
Right, because in between Ernest proposing to Molly and the wedding, Ernest has a conversation with King where he tells him, and, you know, King is jazzed about this because, hey, oil, baby. But in this conversation, Ernest does reiterate to King that he really loves her. And so, yes, like I believe that Ernest really does love her this much, but that makes it all the more unconscionable, the acts that he commits later in the film, because, yeah, he's able to just separate his feelings for her from what he's directly or indirectly doing to her family and community.
I agree. So they're married. And Molly's sister Minnie dies of, quote, wasting illness. Everybody's very sad. And Hale explains that now since Minnie is dead, her husband, some white asshole named Bill,
Bill Smith,
will get her head rights.
How could you forget a name like Bill Smith?
Listen, we're going to really see a lot of the gaps in my ability to perceive who characters are in this film. So you're going to fill in a lot of gaps.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see. As the narrative becomes more complicated, there's going to be a lot of times when I talk about Ernest talking to, quote, some guy. I think the only characters whose names I ever learned were Bill, A.C. Kirby, who's like the bomb guy, and Byron, his brother, of the like minor supporting characters. Like everyone else is a mystery to me. Excited to get into it.
Okay.
Hale explains to Ernest about the rest of Molly's family, kind of the way the family's structured and like who's still alive, who they're married to, what they have, etc. And the way that Ernest perceives it and the way that he means it to be perceived is that he's trying to be sincere and helpful. But as viewers, this is, I think, the first kind of real indication we get, like textual indication we get of Hale's sinister intent. Like you can tell that the reason why he's really explaining it to Ernest is so he understands, like, these are all the people you have to kill, you know, before you'll be the one who has all of this money.
That's very funny because in this section of the film in my notes, I referred to King as a real sinister fella.
He is real sinister. He is. Yeah. So Ernest's brother Byron, we just talked about him. He's conspiring to kill Molly's second sister, Anna. She's a party girl and she's a drunk. Byron and some other guy who I never figured out who he was, get
Kelsey.
Anna drunk and kill her. Kelsey, that's his name. Kelsey. I couldn't remember
Grammer.
while I was going through and making my notes because he's going to be on the stand later and they're going to talk about him. Kelsey. And I had the subtitles on and it's spelled weird. It's spelled Kelsie. I
Yes.
should have logged that in my mind. Yeah.
Kelsey is played by Lewis. His last name, I do not know how to pronounce this. It is Cancel Me. Cancel.
He's got one of the most hateable faces in Hollywood.
Oh, yes. He has an incredibly square jaw. I think we saw him in at least one other film, right? Maybe he was in The Alto Nights or something. He has a very bad guy looking face. Very
he looks
distinctive.
untrustworthy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Right. So Kelsey and Byron get Molly drunk and they kill her. And the sheriff comes to Molly and Ernest's house to tell Molly she's dead and she was shot to death in a ravine. The Osage Council get together. They have a meeting and they seem to be realizing, hey, these deaths are a little suspicious. Like maybe it's these white people.
A lot of people
dropping
dead.
Welcomed into our lives. So they send a white dude they trust to D.C. To try to convince the federal government to send some investigators to look into what's going on. And around this same time in the narrative, Molly hires a private investigator to look into things on his own in the area. The white dude they sent to DC is murdered, and
R.I.P. Barney McBride.
R.I.P. And fairly soon after, Ernest and I think Byron, right, are gonna kill the PI. So like all these people who are like starting to look into this are getting murdered, essentially.
Yeah, well, there's a nice character beat here for King too, because during the town meeting about the murders, where we learned that Molly hired a PI, first you see a reaction shot from King, and he's not happy about this, but. Yep. The original 25 Osage families, they're all in this meeting. The townsfolk are in the meeting, and they put up some reward money for information about the murders. And King adds $1,000 of reward money. Very shrewd move, because one, it makes him look like he's on their side, and two, right, it funnels anyone with information towards him instead of someone else in the town.
Yes, and it's
real
also,
sinister
I think, a relatively small amount of money, right? Like, not in absolute terms, it was a ton of money back then, but I mean, like, in the context of the reward, it wasn't going to increase the reward amount such that it would incentivize more investigation. Like, It's not like he like doubled the reward. So yes, it is very shrewd. I agree. He's a shrewd, sinister fella, as you said. Molly finds out Anna was pregnant when she was killed, and this is the first time that we see Ernest make like a sad, guilty face about something. And so now I think we're getting into a part of the film where we're gonna see Ernest look brooding about a lot of the stuff that he's doing in a way that just makes him seem stupider and more hateable. Like, it's like he's so close to realizing that these things are bad. Like, he's so close, but he's like not making the connections at all, that he just like, killed his like unborn niece or nephew who was his sister-in-law's, belly.
I think it's a real, I enjoy a morally complex protagonist, but I think it is a real issue with this film, because Ernest, he's not an evil mastermind the way that King is, but he's also not an innocent dupe. So he's in this weird morally gray area where the film, I think, asks us to sympathize with him a bit, but I don't know if I can.
I think that how weak and pathetic and stupid he is just kind of makes me want to hurt him. But then he also is a terrible person, and so that also makes me hate him. And so I think there's just nothing about him to like or relate to for me. So I don't know. It's rough. I think Ernest is so much about what makes the first half of this film so unenjoyable. For me, he's a really horrible protagonist. And for what it's worth, it's an incredible Leonardo DiCaprio performance. Like, the script is the script. The character is the character. Like, he does it very, very well. He kind of disappears into the character, honestly, in a cool way. So Ernest makes a deal with some other white asshole to kill Molly's remaining sister, Rita, and her husband, Bill.
Yeah, Blackie.
As part of the consideration.
The guy's name is Blackie.
Blackie. All right. See, look, you do have a lot of information about this. This is great. Thank you. He makes a deal with this guy named Blackie to kill Rita and her husband, Bill. And as part of the consideration, he allows him to steal his Buick and files an insurance claim on the theft.
This is another unappealing part of Ernest's characterization.
He's stupid.
Well, not just the stupidity, but his relentless greed, which I understand within the larger context of the film. But we have the moment earlier where he robs the Osage people and loses it all on a bet during a poker match. And then we have this, where all he is supposed to do on behalf of King, the smart person in this scheme, is recruit Blackie to kill Bill Smith and Rita. And instead he sets up this fucking side action where he's like, oh, you can also steal my car and I'll report it for insurance. So I'll get the insurance money and you get the car.
And you get a car.
Right. It's holy shit, man. You don't think they could trace that back to you at any point?
Yep. So Molly's diabetes is getting worse, and she is prescribed insulin, which is a new invention at this time and incredibly expensive. But Hale is paying for it. And we find out that Blackie, who stole Ernest Buick, was caught, and Hale finds out about it. He takes Ernest to a Mason Lodge and paddles the fucking shit out of his ass for lying to him and for doing a bad job.
Oh, you better believe that's a paddling.
And this is this is the first time we really see Hale's evilness, right, in this scene. Like, this is who he really is, right? Like he is a violent monster. After the paddling, Hale expresses concern about Molly's increasing seriousness into everything that's going on with her having hired the PI. And right after this scene is when Ernest and Byron kill the PI.
Yep.
So Ernest hires this other dude whom I referenced earlier as one of the only people whose names I can remember, A.C. Kirby. He's an explosive expert. And they hire him to blow up Bill and Rita's house since the Buick guy isn't going to be available to kill them anymore. And we meet this gentleman, native dude by the name of Henry Roan. He is, quote unquote, friends with Bill Hale, and he also owes him $25,000. Hale has taken out an insurance policy on him as he's suicidal, but there's a year delay between its issue date and effective date. So, before the effective date, there won't be any payout if Henry dies. We also find out in this scene via something that Hale explains to Ernest that Henry was married to Molly when they were kids, when they were 15 years old. They're not together anymore, but Osage people never get divorced. And so we're kind of planting a seed of concern in Ernest's mind that this could be somebody who may also have claim to Molly's head rights. So Molly's mom dies and Molly gets pregnant. Ernest tells Hale about the pregnancy, and he's really lukewarm and weird about it.
Yeah, he doesn't seem very excited.
In a way that makes Ernest uncomfortable. But this is when I realized, just so you know, I didn't get it while I was watching it, but I understand why. Because in the scene, he expresses surprise that Ernest and Molly are being intimate, given that she's sick. And so this was when I realized that Hale didn't realize until this point that Ernest actually did love Molly. Like, even though he has the perfect excuse to not be fucking her, that she's like really sick in bed, he still is, because he really loves her and is really attracted to her.
Right.
And I think in this moment, what we're supposed to understand as viewers, like why Hale has this, like his tepid reaction, is probably the way he really feels, but it's out of character for him to express it, right? Like he's in mixed company and it's weird that he's not excited. And I think we're supposed to see this as a moment of weakness and real emotional expression on his part. Like he's surprised. He's like, oh shit, this is more complicated than I realized it was going to be. Like Ernest is like really stupid, like he's like much stupider than I think he realized that he was.
This guy is so stupid. He loves his wife.
Right, but he's gonna poison and kill her. Like, yeah.
Right, yeah. Should remember the wedding vows when Ernest said he would fuck her in sickness and health.
Yep. And so I, coming to that realization made me like the first half more, honestly. Like, I didn't understand that while I was watching it. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, that's a pretty cool, like, character moment, kind of way for that to be revealed to us as viewers. And now we have a conversation between Ernest and some white dude. Don't remember who it was. Maybe you do. About whether maybe Henry having been married to Molly means he has some claim on the head rights. So Ernest contracts somebody to kill Henry, and they're out drinking together, the killer and Henry. We get some narration by the guy about him discovering that he really likes Henry in the time they're spending together. But he decides he's going to kill him anyway, in spite of his feelings. But I think we're supposed to understand, due to him having discovered he likes him, he does not shoot him in the face, so it will look like a suicide, as Hale's instructions said for him to do, but shoots him in the back of the head, probably because he couldn't bear to look him in the face while he did it.
Yeah, I thought this was honestly one of the most effective parts of the film. This anecdote. I think the character, I don't remember exactly, but I think the character's name was John, and he's a pretty simple guy. He's honestly more sympathetic to me than Ernest is. He's basically badgered by Ernest into fulfilling these contracts. But this anecdote was so effective for me because we get this extended monologue from this character about how he befriended Henry, liked him, they hung out, whatever, they went drinking together, but then he just flips on a dime and shoots him in the head without any issue. It really just speaks to the dehumanization that the Osage people and that the natives experienced, especially at that particular time in history. I don't know how much better it's gotten over the last 100 years, but the fact that he was able to, again, compartmentalize those feelings and just shoot his friend in the fucking head, absolutely brutal. And you're right, either through not being able to look the guy in the face or just being too simple to think it through fully, shoots him the wrong way through the head.
Yes. And so he tells Ernest that this all happened, and Ernest is really pissed. Ernest tells Molly that Henry's dead, and she's upset, but says that he was always sad, and asks if it was a suicide, and Ernest says, I don't know. And Hale is super, super pissed that the killing didn't look like a suicide. They have Henry's funeral, everybody's there, and Molly visits Rita. Rita is concerned about her, but Molly says Ernest takes the best care of her that he can. While they're there, Ernest talks to Bill, and there's some tension between them. It appears that Bill suspects Ernest's involvement in the deaths, and Kirby does the bombing that night and uses way too much dynamite. The house gets fucking obliterated, and everybody is dead, including Rita, whose head is caved in really grossly, and I wrote, very hereditary coded.
Yes.
This is one of the shots.
Definitely.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and even leading up to that, I have to shout out Jason Isbell's performance as Bill Smith, because they're hanging out in Bill's house. Ernest is in a room with Bill, and you can tell that Ernest is very uncomfortable.
Yep.
And Bill's totally onto his bullshit, because earlier in the film, Bill had said out loud that he had said that he was starting an investigation of his own into the murders. Really just interesting, nuanced performance by Isbell here, where Bill Smith is talking to Ernest, and he asks Ernest, would you like a drink? And Ernest goes, oh yeah, that'd be great. And he goes, I don't have any. I don't have anything. Oh, it's so good. Just moments like that until eventually Bill implies that he's on to Ernest and King, which I will say, literally a fatal flaw. I think if you're on to serial murderers who are willing to kill anyone to cover up their web of murder, probably shouldn't tell them that. You probably go like straight to the feds or something.
Right. Yep. But there really weren't feds at the time, which is the thing.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
The FBI had just been formed 17 minutes ago. So.
Yeah. And the shot of the obliterated house when we see, which sister was this? You say Rita?
Rita. Yeah, it's Rita. Yep.
When we walk up on Rita, I mean, this is also a very affecting scene.
Horrifying.
The house is in ruins, like a tornado ran through it. Bill is still alive, and he is screaming in agony to be shot and put out of his misery. And then the camera moves over to Rita, and she appears to be laying very peacefully on
dead,
the ground. Yeah. And then her neighbors try picking her up, and part of her head falls off.
Yep.
Like the back of her head. It is really gruesome. I thought that was a really affecting shot.
Yeah. And once again, we see Ernest, right, in the scene, and he looks real sad. He's like, oh my God, how could this happen? Like, oh, this is horrible. And it's like, oh, you fucking asshole. What is wrong with you?
If it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
And so Molly goes to visit her fat white asshole guardian. To ask for $300 so she can go to
fat banker.
Yeah, so she can go to DC. While she's there, she has a kind of brief meeting with President Calvin Coolidge and implores him to send investigators, and he agrees. We see Hale meeting with Ernest and instructs him to put poison in Molly's insulin, quote, to slow her down. And Molly
just to slow her
down, no big deal. And Molly is worried that somebody's poisoning her and insists that she only trusts Ernest to take good care of her, not realizing he is the one poisoning her. Probably because only the worst, stupidest person could love somebody as much as Molly can tell. Ernest obviously loves her and still be slowly fucking killing.
And still poison his wife.
Family. Yeah. Like, yeah. So we meet Jesse Plemons here. He comes to town and he visits Ernest.
Let me tell you something.
Oh, please. Yep.
This was the turning point in the film for me both times. It's like you got to eat your vegetables with this film.
Yeah.
And I literally marked. I broke the film up into 3 parts this time.
Yep.
And this was when I started the second part. It's 2 hours and 3 minutes into the film. So another part of my overall thoughts on this film is that it takes 2 hours to feel like it gets going.
Yeah.
Like everything you just described, it is hard for me to remember, and why I had to kind of take notes on everyone's names and everything, because it felt a little repetitive. This cycle of Ernest being a dumb dipshit who appears conflicted, even though he's
just going to keep doing the thing.
He's still doing everything King wants him to do. And Molly, is facing this endless cycle of death and misery. I understand it's making the point effectively, but it's taking 2 hours of runtime. And I think the point could have been made just as easily a little earlier. It's kind of like when we watched The Iron Claw and you told me afterwards that as sad as that film was, even more people died in the real story upon which that film was based. Sometimes you have to take liberties for the sake of the film art form.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. Have we recommended The Iron Claw yet?
One of us did.
That's a great movie.
A worthy recommendation.
Yeah, sure. Whoever recommended it made a good recommendation. So Jesse Plemons, right? He plays this FBI agent. I said it at the top, right? It's like Tom White or something, right? What's his name?
Tom White.
Tom White. Yep. Never wrote his name in any of my notes. I just wrote him as Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons. From Netflix's Zero Day.
I didn't say this to you on the pod, but I'd like to say it here while we're recording, so people can hear it. Mike made that comment to me earlier this week when he and I were talking about Jesse Plemons of Zero Day fame, and I said to Mike that you know how much I don't remember anything about Zero Day is I totally fucking forgot that Jesse Plemons was in it until Mike said that to me earlier this week. Like, it's just like he's like the second most important character in the show, other than Robert De Niro, and I completely forgot his existence in the plot. Like, it's fascinating. What a horrible show. That's one that I would revise down if I were rating it again. Like, that's going down to 1.5 or 2 stars if I
6 hours of bullshit.
Back. Like, yeah, yep. Ernest tells Jesse Plemons that Molly is too sick to see him, asks him to come back in a few days, and Ernest's freaking out. There's some kind of like...
Not suspicious at all.
Right. There's some kind of like dance party or like sock hop or parade or something going on, and Ernest goes and approaches Hale very manically and suspiciously at...
I gotta talk to you right now.
At this event, and Hale rebuffs him in a super infantilizing way. Like, he just like holds his hands on his shoulders and yells at him. He's like, you gotta settle down. You gotta settle down. And I wrote here that Ernest is, he's really just so pathetic.
Pathetic is a good way to put it.
He is pathetic. Yeah, that's why I said it. It makes you want to hurt him. You know, like, it's just like when you see like somebody who's like so pathetic, who's also doing terrible things, like it doesn't engender sympathy.
Okay.
Like,
the terrible things part is important because I was imagining just like a grade school bully seeing a nerd walk by and going,
that's not what I meant. It's because
give him a wedgie.
He's horrible. Like, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So Jesse Plemons, he talks to some Osage folks, and then we get a scene of Hale arguing with a representative from his insurance company about whether they are going to pay out the insurance money on Henry Rowan. Essentially having an argument like about which corporate office should be like considering the claim, and it's very clear it's not going to get paid out, right? And so we're starting to see here's another thing about the film that doesn't really work for me is like, I feel like the way that we see the scheme start to fall apart is a little bit oblique. Like, I feel like it could be a little bit clearer the way the pieces are all coming together, because it's like, yeah, we understand like the killing of Henry was really sloppy, and so the insurance company is going to deny the claim, but like, how's that affecting other things? Like, are they reporting it to the authorities? Like, are others in town hearing about this and becoming suspicious? Like, we just like have this general idea that like Hale's getting a little sloppy and he's going to be found out, but we don't like perceive that at all. It's interesting.
Right. I think the arrival of it wasn't the FBI back then. It was just the Bureau of Investigation. The arrival 2 hours into the film really does imbue the rest of the film with a certain sense of urgency that the first half lacks, which is good. But the Bureau boys, as I referred to them, Jesse Plemons and his crew, his fellow investigators, they're still always on the periphery because the film is still very much centered around Ernest. And I agree with you. And what you were saying just now, it makes me wish we had some more procedural elements. How is this all coming together? Hey, these dumb fuckers blew up a house. Like, it cannot be ignored anymore. So yeah, it made me wish there was some more there to those characters. And we had the runtime, but we didn't get it.
We certainly did. Yes, we certainly did have the runtime. So we get a scene of Hale meeting with some dude whom it seems like he wants to sell some cattle to. I think we're supposed to understand here, with the insurance claim appearing like it's going to be denied and with Hale wanting to sell some cattle, that maybe he's falling on some hard times financially, and it's making him a little sloppy. And Molly is not doing so good. We really see her in this portion of the film like she's she's on death's fucking door. Like she's she's not doing so hot. The FBI goes to see the town doctor, whom I think we're supposed to understand also acts as the town coroner, with questions about Anna's death, and he acts extremely suspicious. And
none of them were prepared for anyone to ever ask any questions.
Well, it's funny to laugh about, but I think like you talked about the, the commentary on capitalism, which is an interesting lens, right? But I think that what we're supposed to understand from this portion of the film is it's acting as a commentary on, the kind of feeling of imperviousness that I think like white people had at this time, right? And where like some of the like toxic anti-government sort of vantage points and propaganda comes from, because it's like we're really talking about people who just didn't expect there to be any kind of inquiry or like any investigation or anything into whatever they wanted to do. It's like they're the bosses of their community, they're the white people, so they're like the enfranchised ones in the communities in which they live. And so it just like never fucking occurred to them that like anyone was ever going to look at this, because like who would, like who watches the Watchmen, as it were, I think was like the perception on their parts. And it's like, I think that culturally a lot of these like kinds of like, anti-government attitudes that have sprung out of these kinds of cultures is this like anti-authoritarian mindset that these people have, where it's like, well, like nobody should be looking into the kinds of things I do or like questioning my motives or my behavior or whatever. And like it's pretty gross, honestly.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, I think the film does a pretty good job of exploring the full extent of this systemic greed and exploitation, because we learn in this kind of sequence when Tom White, Jesse Plemons, is conducting his investigation that the two town doctors, they are in on King's scheme.
Yep.
So is the Undertaker. King obviously has all these associates and underlings that he can hire to commit these murders, these atrocities. And even outside of King and his whole scheme that he has going on, we have moments like with the shopkeeper who, is nickel and diming the Osage people, trying to milk them out of, more than he should, charging unfair prices. And so, yeah, we really have a lot of opportunity to see the ways in which oil made the Osage targets for these white opportunists to manipulate and murder to steal their wealth. It's pretty fucked up stuff.
I'm inclined.
Put that on the, I guess they don't do DVD covers anymore, right? This is an Apple TV film. Put it on the Apple TV movie description. Real fucked up stuff, says Mike back at you.
I'm inclined to agree. So we get a scene of Hale with a guy who's been involved in some of the killings, and Hale instructs the guy to get out of town, but tells him that before he does, he's got a job he can do robbing a bank, essentially.
Hot tip.
Yeah, hot tip. Go rob this bank. And so he does it, but it was a trap, and Hale basically clued the authorities in that this bank robbery was going to happen. His intent was for this guy to get killed before he could turn state's witness, but the guy isn't killed. He gets arrested. And so now someone who knows about Hale's scheme is in custody. Hale has a similar conversation with A.C. Kirby, the guy who did the bombing, and suggests he robs a store wherein he knows he'll be killed. And Ernest talks to Hale, and Hale tells him that if he gets arrested, Hale, has good attorneys. So Ernest will have good attorneys, and he'll beat any rap. He wants Ernest to sign some paper regarding the head rights, and he gives a very horrifying speech about how Molly is going to pass on. And he needs to give her the medicine to ease her pain and spend time with her before she dies. And Ernest signs the paper.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty horrific when he is really more transparent about the fact that he expects her to die at some point pretty soon. Even the way that he refers to the Osage people as a whole, he describes them as a dying people, that their time is past, and that it's really it's the white person's wealth to receive,
to exploit
and
as
manage.
they see fit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And Jesse Plemons has a meeting with his posse of feds about a meeting he had with a guy named Alvin from a town over.
The Bureau Boys,
who saw Byron with Anna before she was killed. The feds arrest Kelsey. I wrote it in my notes. There it is. The feds arrest Kelsey for being a huge piece of shit. And they're going to flip him on Ernest and Byron. The feds are talking to the insurance salesman for some reason, and just as they are, they see out the window that Hale's farm is burning, and the insurance guy says, I just sold him a $30,000 fire policy. And so the pieces are kind of all falling down, right? And so we have these two narratives coming together where, like, you know, people are beginning to see that there's something untoward about Hale's conduct. And also we can tell, like, he's really struggling financially in a way that's making him very sloppy. We see Ernest put some of the sedative from the vial he's been mixing into Molly's insulin into his own whiskey while he prepares her poison cocktail. So he's all drugged up. He goes to a pool hall with his son. Yep. Oh, yeah. He goes to a pool hall with his son. The feds come and arrest him. And in the interrogation room, they make him stand for a long period of time, even though he's all drugged up and very tired. They want him to talk about the murders. They ask him about the explosives that AC set. They know about the Buick deal. They know about the insurance money.
Not the Buick.
Yep, not the Buick. And Ernest says, this is a pretty funny DiCaprio moment of the performance. Ernest says he just lent it to him and didn't ask what he wanted to borrow it for. And Jesse Plemons is like, I let a man borrow my car. I ask what he's going to use it for. And Ernest is like, I don't ask no questions. Like, it's like a totally fucking normal thing to say to, like,
not suspicious at all.
Right. Like, a car in the 20s probably cost $1,000. That was like $25,000. Like, listen, man, like, you're one of the closest people to me on the planet. And, if you needed something of mine that was worth $25,000, I'd lend it to you. But, I'd ask you for some information. I'd be like, hey, what do you need this $25,000 for, buddy? Like,
yeah.
I think,
if you asked to borrow my car, I would ask, what for? I mean, I'd let you do it, but I'd want to know why.
Right, not some random guy on, like, the periphery of your social circle. Like, it's Jesse Plemons is suspicious. Oh, here, I knew the guy's name too. We got there. They bring in the other guy, Blackie. So that was the guy's name. It's all coming together. It's in my notes. Yep. And Blackie's flipped. He's in prison for the bank robbery, and having killed a cop. And Blackie realizes that it's all being orchestrated by Hale, but Ernest still doesn't get it. Like, Blackie's like trying to explain it to Ernest. Ernest is like, no, like, Hale's got this. Like, he's got a plan. And Blackie's like,
he's going to take care of you.
Blackie's like, no, us going down is the plan.
Right.
Like, yeah, Hale has a plan.
Bitch, I'm in prison.
Right. Like, we're seeing it. This is the plan. Jesse Plemons finally tells Ernest that he thinks this was all orchestrated by Hale, taking advantage of Ernest, I wrote, due to his agreeable disposition. Somebody arrests the guy who killed Henry. What's that guy's name again?
Think it was John.
John, that's right. Yep, John. He's going to flip. And Molly goes to the hospital. So the feds come in and they find Molly in her, like, sorry, like, about to die state. And they're like, oh, this lady's not doing so hot. So they take her to the hospital and she starts getting better. Jesse Plemons asks Ernest if he wants protection from Hale, and he says yes. Hale turns himself in and insists he's innocent, and they take Ernest out of state for his protection.
I wrote what he said specifically because, again, it's one of those things. He said, I'm as innocent as a newborn baby. Even more. And it's like, dude, you're overdoing it just a little bit. That's actually an incredibly suspicious thing to say. I'm the world's most innocent person.
Well, I wrote Thompson, whoever the hell that is, testifies to John Lithgow about his involvement, and that Hale sent a note to his jail cell promising to break him out if he killed Ernest, but he was not broken out. We see Molly recovering. Ernest is finally has a court date to go testify. That Hale's there, and just when Ernest goes onto the stand, Hale's attorney demands that he speak with Ernest, as Ernest is his client and he's his attorney. And John Lithgow insists that that's, like, out of order and against policy, but the judge approves and court is adjourned.
You gonna say who the lawyer is played by?
I don't know who it was. Who is it?
It was Brendan Fraser.
That was Brendan Fraser?
Yeah.
I got face blindness, man. The whale? The whale himself?
Yeah, the whale himself.
Wow.
Listen,
yeah.
It made me very happy. It was a moment of levity because I was able to imagine that meme of the whale passing the stogie in the cloud of smoke. One of my favorite images of all time.
Link that in the show notes.
I'll never forget when we went to San Jose.
Hardest I've ever laughed
for
in
our
my
friend
life.
Animals.
Yep.
For our friend Animals wedding, and we went out that night, and it was before like the whole wedding part of the trip, and we were back at the hotel room just on our beds, and I saw that you told me that you watched the film and your thoughts on it, and I saw that meme, and I just cried laughing, and I showed it to you, just like loudly crying, laughing at like 11:30 p.m. in this hotel in San
streaming
Jose.
down my face. We gotta link the meme because it's
completely
so
lost
funny.
it. Yes,
like
you gotta.
And
That's going in the supplemental links for sure.
It's not very funny, honestly, if you haven't seen The Whale. It was seeing the film for me that made it so funny, because it's just the contrast between like how melodramatic and how self-serious the film is with making a meme like that. Like, oh, it's so funny. The Whale is such a fucking stupid movie.
Yeah, I thought it blew ass.
Yeah, definitely blows ass. I agree. Ernest goes to see Molly. He apologizes, quote, for all the troubles, and they embrace. And she says she's going to take him home now. Byron brought her and says that some people from the family want to see Ernest. And Ernest goes to see Brendan Fraser and the family, and they gaslight the shit out of him. I wrote, God, Ernest is so fucking stupid. He's home with Molly. He says he knows now that the government tortured him into making up lies, and he's going to tell the truth to protect his uncle, and he'll be back in a couple of days. He tells Jesse Plemons he won't testify, so they arrest him. Anna's killer, that was the guy who you talked about earlier, right? The guy with the
Kelsey.
the hateable face. Yeah, Kelsey. Yep. Testifies that he killed Anna. He says all the stuff. He shares all the information about how it happened.
Oh, yeah.
Byron was involved. You know, here's all the details. We see a flashback of it. Ernest and Molly's daughter dies, and Jesse Plemons comes to tell him in his cell. Ernest breaks down. It's like the first time we've ever seen him like really break down in his cell in this moment. And Hale is there in an adjacent cell and expresses sorrow in his kind of sinister, manipulative way. And they have a funeral for her.
Did this film, either time that you watched it, did it make you cry?
At the very end, it does. Yeah, just thinking about it. Just thinking about how horrifying it is, you know? Poor
I will
Molly.
say,
you know, it's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
It just, I can't believe she really experienced this like a real person. It's insane to think about, honestly. Like, my God.
Yeah. I will say that this scene where Ernest learns about the death of his child, I came extremely close to losing it. It was like a very like sharp, sudden moment. DiCaprio's performance here is excellent. He's in this jail cell in the middle of the night. Plemons tells him really matter-of-factly and then he just fucks off. Like he does not care, about Ernest. And the way that DiCaprio breaks down in this moment, it's so loud and severe.
Yep.
And it was such a raw human moment. It was really one of the few times I was able to connect with him as a character, because it was just, such a terrible thing to happen to anyone. Right. And then of course, afterwards we get King's words of sympathy, and it's like, shut the fuck up, bro. Like go to sleep.
Yeah. I don't have the same connection to the scene that you do either. And it's interesting because I have a child. For me, I think that this scene is one of the most hateable moments for Ernest, actually, because we see him and the emotion that he feels when he experiences the loss that he has perpetrated or participated in the perpetration of on like so many other people. He's done this to his wife. Like, listen, man, I agree with you logically, and I think that's why I didn't cry. Yeah,
it was just that the onset
I hate
of the moment
so
is
much
so
in the scene.
raw.
It's like, what's wrong with you? How can you allow yourself
How
to feel
are you
this
not able
emotion?
to connect
like
the dots here? Right,
you have been killing people's daughters for the whole movie. Like,
right, you made your wife endure this suffering multiple times over the course of this film's runtime.
Right, now you're sad, you fucking asshole. Oh, it makes me angry, honestly. It's just like, this is like the most I hate him for the entire film, I think, in this scene. But it is sad. I hope my child.
This guy sucks. His daughter died.
Yep.
Makes me want to give him a wedgie.
Ernest goes to see Hale and tells him that he's going to testify because the feds gave him a deal. Hale gives an insane delusional speech about how the Osage are going to stand by him. The community is going to stand by him because of all he's done for them, and they know what kind of man he really is. But you can see here in this moment that Ernest finally sees the truth, that like King is cooked. Like he's like, not playing with a full deck. Ernest testifies. John Lithgow makes him testify that all of Molly's blood relations are dead. He says he didn't marry Molly for King, but he always loved her. And she's in the courtroom and she sees this. And Molly visits Ernest in some kind of meeting room. He asks how his son is. She says that he and their daughter miss him. Don't know the details of what happens. And he says that he's told the whole truth now. She asks him what the medicine was that he gave her in the shots. Because she knows that he poisoned her, and he insists that it was just insulin, and she doesn't believe him, and she leaves. And so we're to understand, I think, that she would have stayed with him if he'd just been truthful. She loved him so much that she would have forgiven him for all of the things, but he couldn't acknowledge, maybe not to himself, that like that particular dimension of what he did, like that he hurt her specifically. Go ahead.
That's another interesting character moment for Ernest that I think again contributes to how much I disliked him as the film's protagonist. He really only confesses out of self-preservation, not guilt. He never fully opens up to his wife. He's a coward. Again, he's so unlikable in every single conceivable way. Yep. He's a horrible guy. Really, it was tough.
Yep.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, he's really awful. And that's basically it. We get a little kind of coda, and the coda is a depiction of a live recording in front of a studio audience of essentially a radio play, which is, I think, both an affecting way to wind the story up to kind of show the way that we tokenize these kinds of like really important, really like human things that have happened to people who've been victimized by, to your point, like by white people, by colonialism and settlers and capitalism and like all that kind of stuff into, just like kind of like a cute, fun radio play that takes 4 or 5 minutes. And then we get an explanation of kind of what happened to all of the characters. The explanation is read by Scorsese himself. I read because he couldn't bring himself to direct anybody else to read it. He didn't like the way anybody else did it, which I also thought was really cool. Like, God, Marty Scorsese is just like so cool. And the film ends. The end. That was Killers of the Flower Moon. What'd you think?
Yeah, where do I begin with this one? So I guess it's we're getting into our next segment, final ratings, right? You never really say that. It seems like you could.
I really lead into it by saying, "What'd you think?"
Yeah, I mean, what I think is I think.
Yeah, what'd you think? What are your what are your thoughts and final rating, asshole? All right. Yeah, you're being a real fucking earnest right now.
Oh no, you're gonna give me a wedgie. You're gonna give me an Indian. Oh shit, I was about to say Indian rug burn, and then I realized that that was a '90s thing. What do kids call that nowadays when they
was it Indian rug burn arm? Or was it just Indian burn? I don't think it was Indian rug burn. I think it was just Indian burn.
Let's check the tapes. Yeah,
you're right. It's just an Indian burn. Yeah, it's got a Wikipedia article. Yep. I haven't thought of that word probably since I was in elementary school. I don't think you were conflating two things. I think it is a rug burn. I think that's what it is. Like you're doing that with your hand to someone's arm. Like that's what a rug burn is.
Well, regardless, let's get into
You're wasting good pod.
Okay. So I'm going to start with my rating, and then I will go into my overall thoughts and critique of the film. Because I want to explain. I want to explain how I arrived at this number. So I originally rated this film 4 out of 5 stars, of course, going by the Letterboxd scale. Upon rewatching it, I am downgrading it to 3.5 stars out of 5. And so here's why. Overall, we didn't really talk about the cinematography, but I think this is a technical masterpiece, a real tour de force. Everyone here is operating at a very high level. Scorsese still got it, baby. So this is a visually stunning film. The performances are superb, especially by the main trio, DiCaprio, Gladstone, and De Niro. I like the film's scope and ambition, but I think that there are just fundamental issues in focus and narrative drive that keep it from being great. And for me and my self-imposed Letterboxd scale, 4 and up is great. Here are some of my core critiques of the film. I've already said this a couple of times, but 1, I think the choice of protagonist here is very questionable. The film is primarily told through the lens of Ernest, who is, as we've described, weak, morally confused, and ultimately passive. And we spend 3.5 fucking hours following him and his story. I think he is not particularly compelling, but he's also not very complex. And so I just think he's not able to anchor a story of this magnitude. And his motivations are repetitive. He is greedy, he is fearful, and he wants to impress his uncle. Like those are kind of his driving, and he loves his wife. Like those are kind of his driving forces. And I think that for everything you said in the beginning of before you went into the recap, your preamble about the film, about how Scorsese, he consulted Osage people and wanted to make sure he was centering their perspective in the film. I think the film fails at it, honestly. I think the film centers Ernest, and in doing so, it's largely about the perpetrators rather than the victims or those fighting for justice. And I think that leaves us as the audience emotionally distant from the tragedy. And so I'm thinking about it. You have 3.5 hours to tell this tale. No one's imposing any limitations on Scorsese for this direct-to-streaming film. He has all the time in the world to tell this story. And I was just thinking, the other ways that he could have done this, you could make, like, if you don't want to make it a straight procedural or however it is in the book, you could shift perspectives. You could follow a section of the film around Molly or the townspeople trying to understand what this seeming epidemic is. I center part of it around the perpetrators, Ernest and King, and not devote the entire film to following them. Dedicate a section to the Bureau Boys once they become involved or made aware of what's going on. Instead, the film doesn't do that. The focus is narrow, and I think that's to the film's detriment. So I feel like this is such a weird feeling to have because Scorsese does pepper the film with a lot of Osage imagery, some of their perspective, some of their rituals. But did you, after this film, watching it twice, did you feel like you understood the Osage people any better? Did you feel like you knew them and their culture? Because I honestly didn't.
Yeah, I guess you're right? It's a point very well made. I think you're kind of convincing me of your perspective here in this discussion. I think you're right? Like, what do I really know about them? Certainly nothing above and beyond my, like, general knowledge of Native American culture, kind of like as a, what's the word for when something's like an amalgamation of like things that are actually different from one another?
Pastiche?
Like a pastiche. Like, yeah, like a general like pastiche understanding of Native American culture that we have as non-Native people. And I don't know. It does fail in that way. It's a point well made.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I felt it the first time and watching it a second time when I was composing my notes and really thinking about, well, why am I lukewarm on this film? I think that's a big issue with it. And then, of course, the pacing of the film. Again, 3.5 hours long. It is an epic film, but it takes nearly 2 hours to introduce the Bureau Boys investigation. And I think that the first half feels pretty slow and repetitive. I totally understand why you and Caroline took a while to return to the film after only watching the first half. This is a film that, I don't know, it either needs an intermission or something needs to change about that because I think the story drifts a bit without having the stakes and urgency early in the film. And I think it could have benefited from
miniseries, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. I think it could have been a really good
like 4 or 5 episode miniseries. Like, yeah.
Yes. It would have worked really well as a miniseries or by tightening up the script. And then, of course, the ending. I have mixed feelings about it. I kind of don't know where I land on it. That final scene, the Lucky Strike radio play that you describe, where they it's interesting because it's self-aware. It's like a meta commentary about how these tragic stories are turned into salacious entertainment.
Commodified, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, commentary on our true crime obsessed culture and all of that sort of stuff. And I think it's effective in drawing attention to how the events are remembered, but it feels so removed from the film itself in a way that I don't know. I felt it was kind of distancing to me in a way.
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Like maybe it just didn't work on you, but I think what you're saying is that you felt the exact way that Scorsese wanted you to feel. I
think my problem with it is that it is introducing this element of satire 3 hours and 25 minutes into a 3.5 hour long film. And I'm like, someone edit this shit down a little bit. But yeah, your point is fair. So overall, I think the film is masterfully crafted. There's a lot to like. It is certainly captivating on a moment-to-moment basis, but I think it's too unfocused for my liking. And it's not as cohesive as I think it should have been. To me, it ultimately felt like a missed opportunity to engage with the Osage experience and really reckon with this period of history. And so that's why I'm landing on a 3.5 out of 5. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's fascinating. I came into this and I didn't say that whether I changed my rating or not, because I came into this thinking that I didn't change my rating, but I think you kind of talked me into it. And so I think I have to decrease to a 3.5 out of 5 as well. I felt the same way about it that I did the first time, but I think that with less critical discernment on my first viewing, and, without having had this discussion that you and me have had for the past hour and a half, I think that I just chalked it up to taste, right? I could tell that it was masterfully directed and acted and, written and produced and everything, whatever, etc. And people really loved it. People who know more about this kind of stuff than I do. And so I was like, well, I can tell it's really great. And I really enjoyed the second half. So like 4 stars, whatever, that kind of felt like the right rating for me. But I think that in this discussion, and especially in your summary just now, I think you have articulated a very well thought and compelling case, especially for the way it decenters the Osage perspectives, which I don't think that I was really thinking about in that way, because I don't think I was aware of the effect that the centering of, Ernest's awful lack of relatability kind of has on the space that the film has for other characters and their perspectives. And so, yeah, I feel like I have so little to add. Like, I've already said my piece, right? For all intents and purposes. Like, the character of Ernest just does not work for me as a protagonist. I hate him. And I don't hate him like you hate, like when you watch Mean Streets, you hate Johnny, like how could you possibly not? But like, it's compelling, Johnny is compelling as a character, even though he's very hateable. To a certain extent, you got to hate Hale as well. Like, what a horrible guy.
Right.
But you see the machinations and you see like his motivation, and it's all very sensible. It's like you can kind of relate to his savvy, as it were. Like, you're like, like this is like, I think the way that we all want to be in the world, just hopefully with a little bit or maybe a lot more moral discernment. But like, I think we aspire to be savvy. We don't aspire to be like a fucking hapless dipshit who loves their wife more than anyone has ever loved their wife before, but still not enough to tell that you shouldn't be slowly killing her. Like, it's just
shouldn't be murdering her entire family.
Right. And like her entire family. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're right. Right. 3.5 stars. I mean, I like the movie. I will say you said this to me the other day, and I'm inclined to agree. I will never watch this film again. I've seen it twice now.
I think I'm good with 2.
Right. That's enough times. For
2's
me.
enough.
Yeah. Yep. Although who knows? Maybe we'll do like a Scorsese marathon, someday when he dies, and maybe we'll have to watch it then. So
yeah, Flags at Half-Mast in
right.
De Niro Nation.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I guess that's my take on this bad boy. That being said, I suppose it's a little complicated, right? Because it's certainly. So that being said, right? I mean, we should say. I assume that you agree with me about this. I mean, you should watch this film. Like, oh yeah, right. Regardless of what we have to say about it, I mean, like it is a good movie worth watching. Even if you agree that it's only a 3.5 star, you will certainly not walk away feeling like you wasted a lot of your time. You might feel like you wasted some of your time, like maybe it could have been an hour shorter. But if this was 2.5 hours long, you'd walk out and you'd be like, great.
Oh, man.
Like, yeah.
Riding high.
Right? You'd be riding real high. So that being said, do you have anything to recommend, Mike, both in addition to and in lieu of Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah, so I am going to recommend the 2017 Taylor Sheridan film, Wind River. Are you familiar with this film?
I am not.
So this film, it is a small-scale crime thriller and modern Western. Taylor Sheridan, he's the creator of Yellowstone. He wrote Hell or High Water. He wrote Sicario, the first one, the good one. And the film stars Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. Basically, the premise of the film is that it centers on the investigation of a young Native woman's murder in Wyoming. What it's doing, much in the way that Killers of the Flower Moon drew attention to this historical, series of murders. This film, Wind River is drawing attention to this current epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is often ignored by the mainstream media. So I think it's trying to do something very similar to what Killers of the Flower Moon tried doing a few years later. And what I like about this film is that it is told through a crime and investigation lens. The story, the two main characters here, they're white. Elizabeth Olsen plays an FBI agent, and Jeremy Renner plays a local tracker. And so the film follows them and their investigation, and that lends the film a sense of urgency and drive that I think Killers of the Flower Moon lacked for a lot of its runtime. The investigation is not just about uncovering the crime, but the broader social conditions that enable it. So I think this results in a film that is very tightly plotted, suspenseful, and emotionally intense. And I really appreciate that there's a focused narrative drive throughout. And there's a lot to like. It is definitely an emotionally intense film. It's pretty raw. There's some beautiful cinematography. I think Taylor Sheridan, not the best director in the world. I think Hell or High Water is still a better film overall. But this is a good film that is definitely worth seeing. What about you, Mike? Do you have anything to recommend?
Oh, I do. That sounds nice, by the way. I'll add it to my list.
Nice thing about Wind River, less than 2 hours long.
Oh, I do like that, because my recommendation isn't, although only just barely. I'm going in a completely different direction with my recommendation this week, and I am recommending a film that you love, I think, just as much as I do. The 2007 Coen Brothers film "No Country for Old Men."
Oh yeah.
So here's my thinking when I decided to do this. I think that. So first, let's talk about what No Country for Old Men is about, right? So in No Country for Old Men, Josh Brolin plays this character, Llewyn Moss, who finds a ton of money in the desert, and this just horrifying hitman named Anton Chigurh is hired to find him. And at the same time, Tommy Lee Jones is playing a cop who is trying to find all of them. And so it's basically like a cat and mouse, like kind of crime thriller. But I feel like Chigurh is kind of a similarly banal, evil character where it's like he just is, kind of in the way that Ernest is. Like he's relatively unthinking, he's methodical in his actions, but seemingly not a lot of consideration for why he's doing what he's doing. He's just like essentially a force of nature. But I feel like that type of evil, the type of evil that Ernest is, like an unthinking, just like machine of hedonistic desire, works so much better when the character is terrifying instead of pathetic. Like Anton Chigurh is like, if you've never seen No Country for Old Men, like this is a character about whom you will have nightmares. Like he is so scary in the film, and it just it works much better, I think, as an examination of the complexity of evil and the different ways that people can be evil and the roles that like ideology and belief versus like material desire can play in decisions you make about the kinds of people we're going to be in the world. And, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Coen brothers are my favorite directors, and this is certainly one of their absolute best, if not their best film. So if you haven't seen No Country for Old Men, I would strongly recommend you check it out.
Yeah, I fully co-sign that recommendation. I rewatched it pretty recently for the first time in maybe over a decade, and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's an incredibly easy 5-star. It's just so damn good. And shout outs to my lovely wife, Caroline, aka Bad Creep, for whom I was reminded on Letterboxd when I went to the page to tee up the recommendation. It is a 3-star. One of her many goofy, and I would say possibly goofiest film takes. But here we are.
That's what makes her such a compelling foil to us when she guest stars on the pod.
It is.
Those insanely hot boiling takes, scalding hot.
Yep, scalding hot. So there you go. That's my recommendation. And with that, I think I would like to take us into our final segment, which is me leading us out. Oh, wait, no, we still have to roll.
I don't understand how you forget that.
It's easy for me.
I thought it was your favorite segment.
Yeah, but it's your roll today. it's not as exciting.
You're going to have to watch the movie no matter what. So
cut that.
I get excited.
Cut that. And with that, I would like to lead us into our final segment, which is The Roll. Mike, are you ready?
I'm ready, baby. Let's do this. We're rolling 60. We're rolling Silver Linings Playbook.
Today's the
I
day,
think maybe
baby.
We should start. Today's the day. Let's start a little chant. Silver linings, silver linings. You're not joining me. Silver linings, silver linings. Okay, I'm going to roll. And I have rolled 64.
Oh,
Nope.
you're rolling again.
I need to re-roll. That was Grudge Match. We haven't updated the sheet again. Okay, rolling again. Couldn't be further away. I rolled 23. That is the 1990 film Stanley and Iris. I've never heard of this film in my life, but it is an American romantic drama film directed by Martin Ritt and starring Jane Fonda and Robert De Niro. What made you laugh?
Final line of the opening of the Wikipedia article. The film was panned by critics and was a box office bomb.
Is it short at
zero in
least?
on that section when I pull it up because it's like I
That's
know
what
that's
you
the
look
information
for?
I want to know. Like, yeah, it's always the final, like it's the final 5 or 10% of the top is the reception. I'm just like I zero right in on it. Oh my god! Wow. I mean, listen, it's short.
Though?
It's only 104 minutes long.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm sure we could do a lot worse.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm certainly excited to recap it next week.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know what I always say? I might watch it tonight.
Yeah, doubtful.
Yep.
I feel like you never have.
Oh, and if how far we are into the podcast is any suggestion, never will.
Know thyself.
Well, and with that, I will lead us into our actual final segment, leading us out. I would like to thank you, Mike, my wonderful co-host, for being here on the podcast with me. And
You're welcome.
I would like to thank you, loyal citizens of De Niro Nation, for joining us week in and week out, and would implore you to please follow us on Letterboxd. Mike is Mike Back At You, and I am Mike the Fab. And rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. 5 stars only, please. We really, really, really need this. And please write us letters at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. If you haven't listened in a month or two, just a reminder, we don't have live show rules anymore. We would love a letter about literally anything. So please write in.
We'll take it.
Yeah, please write in. We'll take it. We'll happily engage with it. And I would like to thank Caroline, aka Bad Cree, my lovely wife, for drawing our fantastic podcast art. I guess that's it, right? So thanks for being with us this week for Killers of the Flower Moon, and we will look forward to seeing you all again next week for Stanley and Iris. Thanks, everybody.
Looking forward to it.